What's up, guys? Welcome to the J Talks Hoops live show. I'm your host, Justin, aka J Talks Hoops. You might know me as the co host of the Bulls on Tap podcast. If you guys haven't checked out our newest episode, we had Joel Lorenzi on, beat writer for The Athletic, been following the Bulls this year, followed the Thunder for a couple years there. So we got some really good insight on him, not from only just the Chicago Bulls, but also the Oklahoma City Thunder, the development of Josh Giddey, where he's grown, where he can continue to grow. I thought it was a really good conversation, really interesting conversation. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, go back, check that out. But here today, man, I'm just here to talk some hoops with you guys. Like I said, my goal is to get good at this podcasting thing. The only way you can get good at something is to get the reps in. So I'm trying to do it as much as I can and just get these reps in. So today we're going to break down the Lakers Bulls game tonight. Then we're going to go into, some March stuff because it's March and people are putting up crazy statistics and some people don't want to hear it, but some of these March statistics, they can be a little bit overblown. So I'm going to do a deep dive on that and kind of break down why I feel the way I feel about some stuff. And I'm going to reveal the origins behind the whole March Josh Giddey thing that I've been throwing around a lot. And then we're just going to, we're going to open it up for a mailbag too. And we got some good questions here. If you guys want to submit any more questions, just hit those comments down there, hop in the chat. But let's get to the game tonight, man. We got the Lakers and the Bulls tonight. This is a game that I want to see two things happen. I want to see Josh Giddey have a good game as well as Modest Buzelis. So really three things happen. I want to see Josh Giddey have a good game, Modest Buzelis have a good game, and I want to see the Bulls lose. The Bulls, they are way too close to the Bucks in those standings right now. They don't have any business winning basketball games right now. Like if the Bucks pass them in the lottery standings, that is a huge loss for the Chicago Bulls. So that doesn't mean I want to see the Bulls play like shit. That just means I want to see entertaining basketball, a good Josh Giddey game, good Modest Buzelis game, but I do not want to see the Chicago Bulls win tonight. If you do want to see the Bulls win, I get it. There's some people like that out there. I'm just not one of those people. So one thing that I'm looking for tonight in the game is the Luka and Josh Giddey matchup. They're not going to be guarding each other. Very rarely are they going to be matched up. I mean, Luka might guard Giddey. They might try to hide him on defense a little bit when Giddey's off ball in certain sets, but I don't think Luka's going to spend a whole lot of time actually guarding Josh Giddey on ball. But still, the way that they play, the styles that they play, there's some similarities and there's obviously a lot of differences. But one thing that I'm looking for is, can Josh Giddey get within like 10 points responsible for of Luka Doncic? So obviously Luka's going to score way more points than Josh Giddey. Luka's probably going to touch 40 tonight. The Bulls don't really have anybody to defend him. At a minimum, we know he's going to get his 30 points, but the assists is where this is going to come into play. So let's say Luka gets 32 points and 8 assists, and I don't know, half of those assists are for threes. So then Luka with 32 points, 8 assists, half of them being for three, he's responsible for roughly 50 points at that point. If Josh Giddey can mess around and get like 20 points and 15 assists and have, 7 of those be from three, then he's getting closer to that 58 points responsible for. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see him matching buckets with Luka Doncic because that's a very unrealistic expectation for him. But if Josh Giddey is going to be the engine for this offense, I need to see him responsible for nearly as many points as Luka Doncic is. And I believe Luka leads the league in points responsible for this year. So it's going to be tough for Giddey. But like I've said all along, since the trade deadline, since we stripped it down, this is the time for Josh Giddey to just ball out. This is the time for him to put up video game numbers and prove doubters like myself wrong. I doubt the guy. I don't think he's going to be an all NBA caliber player or an all-star level player, but that doesn't mean I can't be wrong. And that doesn't mean he can't shut me up. So go out there tonight, Giddey, have another great game. Take that Luka Doncic matchup seriously because he's one of the top guys in the league. He's a top 5 guy in the league. That's a matchup you should be getting up for. So that's one thing I'm looking for with this Lakers Bulls game. Another thing I'm looking for with this game is how's Modest Buzelis going to handle Marcus Smart's defense? So Smart is probably going to be the Laker that's on Buzelis the most tonight. And it's interesting because he's not nearly the defender he was. What was that, 3 years ago? He won Defensive Player of the Year. He's on a pretty steep downhill climb since then, but he's still a pretty good defender and he's still pretty physical. And that's the type of defender that Modest Buzelis struggles with. Shout out to Samity in the chat. Love to see you in here, bro. But with Marcus Smart, that he's going to try to make the game dirty. He's going to try to make it grimy. He's really going to try to use that physicality against Modest Buzelis. So I want to see how Buzelis overcomes that, because that 41 points he had the other day, I don't care who was sitting out for the Warriors. Anytime you get 41 points and you're 21 years old in the NBA, That's impressive to me. So I don't expect 41 again tonight, but I do want to see how he attacks Marcus Smart, how he attacks that physicality. It'll probably be Marcus Smart. There'll be some Jake LaRavia on Buzelis tonight as well. Probably some Rui Hachimura. There's going to be some interesting cross matching done in this game. I haven't looked to see if LeBron's playing or not, but anytime, if LeBron is playing, anytime the Buzelis gets to match up against a legend, even if it's an aging legend, that's going to be interesting to watch too. So as far as anything else I'm looking for in the game, I mean, can Rob Dillingham give anything? I thought that was something really cool about our pod on what was that, Monday night with Joel, is we were asked in our mailbag, can Rob Dillingham be an NBA level player? And we kind of changed it a little bit to just, can Rob Dillingham have a moment in the NBA, like have a big moment in a playoff series, or, a series of games in a contending team where he matters. Can Rob Dillingham be that kind of player? And a lot of people have written him off and said he can't be that kind of player. Joel wasn't so quick to write him off. He said, guards take a little bit longer to develop. With the lack of playing time he was getting in Minnesota, we got to treat this as his rookie year, and maybe be a little kinder with the criticisms with him, and maybe give him a little more room to grow. So I took that, and I kind of agreed with him. When I sat back, thought about it, re-listened to the episode, I agreed with what he was saying. And so I'm giving Rob Dillingham a longer leash. I'm not going to judge too much more of what he does this year. I just want to see him get that runway, get those minutes, be allowed to make those mistakes. Is he going to be an NBA level player? I have no idea, but the chances that he is are higher than the chances that he isn't. Being as high of a draft pick as he was, as high of a recruit as he was out of high school, the talent's there. We just got to see him kind of put it together. So tonight, that's another thing I'm going to be watching for is, can Rob Dillingham do anything? Can he have a little moment in this game? Can he look like an NBA level player in this game? Outside of that, not much I'm looking for with the Bulls right now. I'm on the record, guys. I don't root for wins. I don't root for losses. I just root for, the young guys to look good and to give me some semblance of hope for next season and for the future. Now, I might have to change that a little bit, because I am starting to root for losses, just because looking at the standings right here. Yeah, looking at these standings, we're only half a game back of Milwaukee. So I got to start rooting for some losses, because there's no reason that Milwaukee needs to pass us in the loss column and get better odds at us this year. So let's look around the rest of the NBA today and see what other matchups we got. I was watching a little bit of the Pistons Sixers. Would have been better if Maxey was playing. Hopefully he's back soon from that hand injury. But the Pistons they continue to impress me, man. As I was walking up, the last play I saw was that fast break where Cade threw it to Ron Holland on the alley-oop. And Ron Holland's just a guy I'm going to like. That guy's just a dog out there. He plays his ass off. He reminds me of a young Ron Artest. So Pistons Sixers, that was a fun watch. Looks like the Sixers have got that within 8 points, doing that without Embiid, without Tyrese Maxey. That's interesting. And that's where people are questioning this Pistons team, because they're the first seed by a pretty wide margin right now, but they're struggling to put games away that they really should be winning. And come playoff time, it's always interesting when these teams that are built on one offensive hub, like Cade Cunningham, and don't really have a secondary ball handler. I mean, Dennis Jenkins had a moment earlier in the season, but he's been pretty rough lately. They don't have a secondary creator. Asar Thompson hasn't developed in that way for them. Tobias Harris, that time is gone for him in the NBA. He's a decent scorer still, but he can't really create his own shot in the way that the Pistons need him to these days. So I think in the playoffs, they could struggle a little bit, with people being able to key in on Cade the whole time. And so games like tonight, where this is a Sixers team without Maxey, without Embiid, obviously without Paul George, they should be handling them. It's a closer game than they want, so that leaves a lot of questions going into the playoffs here. Suns Pacers are playing right now. Not much to talk about with that game. Magic Wizards are going at it right now. And if you guys have been following me for a while, I'm a big Paulo Banchero fan. People were writing him off. I was telling you, don't write him off. He's not having a great game today. He's only got 6 points, 4 rebounds at half. He's only took 5 shot attempts, so it's a good opportunity for him in the second half to get those shots up. I mean, Bam showed the other night that you can get points up, you can get shots up against the Washington Wizards. If you guys haven't seen my walk and talk that I did today, I would encourage you to go watch it, just because the Bam discourse is getting out of hand. Like, people are using it as justification for why the NBA sucks. So I just went out and I made my walk and talk today about all the things in the NBA this year that are cool, all the reasons why the NBA is a good product this year. There's a lot of positive things going around this year. Just off the top of my head, you got Kawhi's resurgence, which isn't getting as much coverage as it should. That guy's playing like a top 3 player in the NBA right now. The Spurs growth, they're looking like legit contenders despite being young as hell. Tyrese Maxey earlier in the year, Cade Cunningham's ascension, Paulo Banchero's reemergence, Anthony Edwards just being Anthony Edwards. Jokic is still playing at a historic level. SGA is playing at a historic level. There's things all around the league, positive things you can look at all around the league. People are just ignoring it to try to shit on the league and trying to use Bam's game to try to tear the league down and try to prop up their own weird opinions for some reason. If you're somebody who's only talking about the negative aspects of the NBA, then I just flat out don't think you really watch the NBA that much or enjoy the NBA, and I don't know why you bother to do it. So let's keep looking around the NBA this tonight. We got Bucks Heats going on right now. It'll be interesting to see what Bam does. I think I saw a stat earlier today that every player in NBA history who got 70 or above in a game, the next game they got over 30. So we'll see if Bam can keep that trend up. Nets Hawks is going on right now. Not a lot to talk about there. Jalen Johnson, he's another thing like flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about Jalen Johnson and the emergence he's had this year. That's something, if you love basketball, if you really enjoy basketball like that, you should be talking about Jalen Johnson. You should be highlighting what he's doing this year because it's flat out fantastic. We got Grizzlies, Mavericks, two tanking teams. Nothing really interesting there. Nuggets, Spurs. I'm gonna say that's gonna be the game of the night. Nuggets, Spurs will be the game of the night. You got Jokic, you got Wemby. What more do you need? And then you get to see whose depth is gonna win out here because the Nuggets, they're as close to fully healthy as they've been in a minute. Aaron Gordon's playing right now. Jamal Murray's playing right now. Christian Braun's back. See, Bruce Brown's in there. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a huge game against the Thunder the other night. That was a classic game. Another reason why you will never hear me say the regular season sucks because we continue to get classic games like that. And then the Spurs, man, they got Wemby, they got Harper, they got Castle, they got Fox, they got Vassell, they got Johnson, they got Cornette. Like they're a deeper team than people realize. So I'm putting my money on that's going to be the game to watch tonight. Shout out somebody at the chat. Real hoop heads always find a way to enjoy the league. 100% true, man. It doesn't matter how bad the Chicago Bulls are. I promise you, I love basketball more than I love the Chicago Bulls. I'm always going to enjoy the NBA and the product they're putting out there. We also got Celtics Thunder tonight, and that one's interesting because the Celtics went out and said they're not playing Jason Tatum tonight, and everybody's like, they're ducking the smoke from Lou Dort. Honestly, I can't blame them. Lou Dort is the dirtiest player in the NBA by a mile, so I can't blame them for sitting him out and playing it safe. And then we finish out with Bulls Lakers, which we already discussed. So it's an interesting slate. I mean, I'm going to have Bulls Lakers on the main TV for sure. On the iPad, I'm going to probably have Nuggets Spurs and maybe a little bit of Celtics Thunder too. I might have to find a way to get all three of those games going at once. So it's going to be a good watch tonight. Good night for hoops heads tonight for sure. Now let's get into some more Chicago Bulls stuff here. So game the other night, they're playing the Golden State Warriors, a team without Steph Curry. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's been out. Draymond Green played, but when Draymond Green is playing without Steph Curry, he's just flat out not that good. Samity, I promise you, bro, I'm not staying awake for that Bulls game. We play pickup at 6 a.m. in the morning. I will stay awake for the first half of the Bulls game, and then I'll be out. I'm not staying up that late and missing my pickup run tomorrow. So, but yeah, the Warriors, they're obviously dealing with injuries. I mean, when you watch that game, their best players on the court were Guy Santos and Pat Spencer. So for Giddey and Buzelis to put up, just monster numbers, I'm not taking anything away from those numbers, but you do have to take it with a grain of salt. Like if Curry was playing, if Jimmy Butler was playing, like if the Warriors were at full strength, I think it's a little harder to see those guys putting up those numbers. But at the same time, man, anytime that you put up 21 points, 13 rebounds, 17 assists in a single game, that's flat out impressive. Like no shade to Josh Giddey whatsoever. Flat out impressive performance. And that's what I want to see from him. I've been saying that I want to see him put up video game numbers. He has the longest leash in the NBA right now. I don't think there's a single thing that he could do that would make Billy Donovan pull him out of the game. Like last year you saw where he'd have defensive lapses or a couple lazy turnovers. You even saw that earlier this year where he'd have, a stretch of bad plays and Billy Donovan would yank him. You're not seeing that now. Post-trade deadline, like this is your roster, bro. Do whatever you want with it. You have the longest leash in the world. So I want to see you put up these video game numbers. I want to see you make flashy passes. I want to see you make mistakes. I want to see you capitalize on mismatches, bully smaller guards. Like get out there, keep putting these numbers up. I don't expect 21, 13, and 17 every night, but I do expect 20-plus points and 10-plus assists every single night from you from here on out. So if you're the player that we're staking our future on, that's what I need to see from you if I'm going to feel any semblance of hope for the future. So Modest Buzelis, man, props to him, 41 points. And they said he's what was it? It was like him and Michael Jordan are the two youngest guys to score 40 plus points in a Bulls uniform. Kind of surprised Derrick Rose wasn't on that list, but at the same time, scoring, he was never like a high volume scorer like that. He said many times he didn't like to score like that. He only started scoring like that when he got into the NBA and the Bulls told him to score like that. So Buzelis, man, 41 points. It's impressive. I'm not going to say anything about who the Warriors are playing, lack of competition, anything like that. At the end of the day, this is an NBA game. So you getting 41 points at his age, second year in the NBA. Super impressive. The shot profile was nice. I thought he did a good job of both attacking the rim and shooting the three when necessary. He still shoots a little more from three than I'd like to see. I'd like to see him mix it up, get in the mid range a little bit more. Even get to the rim a little bit more. Just kind of force the issue, force the contact, finish strong, get to the free throw line. But that's coming with his game. So those guys, man, I was happy with both those games, and I hope it's the start of. I hope it's more to come. It's just the tip of the iceberg. I hope we see Giddey continue to put these video game numbers up. We see Modest Buzelis continue to have these high scoring games. Because my question with Buzelis, watching him this year, I've had the question: does he have the mentality to be a number one option? Does he have that kind of mindset where he wants to be a number one option? Because number one options, guys who have that mindset, they force shots. That's just what they do. Their job is to score. And the worst case scenario of that type of player is Cam Thomas, where no matter what, he's going to force that shot. That shot is going up no matter what. But you see guys who have that kind of mindset, but they know when to push the gas, they know when to reel it back, but they also know when to force the issue. You've seen Paulo Banchero recently started forcing the issue a little bit more, get into his spots more, taking over more. Donovan Mitchell is a good example of this. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards is a really good example of this. Like if the shot's not falling for the Timberwolves, he's just going to keep shooting until he gets himself in rhythm. Modest Buzelis doesn't really force the offense, which is both good and bad. It's good because he never disrupts the flow of his team by forcing his shot. But as far as player evolution goes and being a high volume potential number one option, I kind of want you to force the issue a little bit. I kind of want you to force your offense and take shots, man. Take bad shots. Take shots where you're double covered, where there's a hand in your face, where it's not an open look. Like one of his problems right now is everything he's taking. He's only taking it if he's open. He's not taking the contested mid rangers. He's not taking the contested threes as much. He is still taking some contested threes, but my thing with him has been he needs to fight through adversity. So there's been a lot of times this year you see him, he has the ball, he's trying to make something happen. He goes and the defender squares up on him. They go chest to chest. He stops in his tracks, picks up his dribble, and passes it out. You look at the elite scores, the Kevin Durant's, the Jason Tatum's, the SGAs of the world. A defender stands them up like that. They get physical. They get chest to chest. They take that bump. They reset. They keep going. They fight through that adversity. So I was excited when I looked at the box score the next day and saw that Buzelis took 28 shots that game. That's what I want to see from him. I want to see him force the shots, force the issue, force yourself to be that high volume number one option, because it's a mindset thing. We talk all the time about like, oh, how did so-and-so only get 10 shots in this game? He should have taken 15. When the reality is the ability to take shots, the ability to know you need to take 15 shots, to create 15 looks for yourself. That's a skill in and of itself that we don't credit enough. So this ties into a bigger question here of March basketball. And there's been people who they hear me say all the time, March Josh Giddey. It's a trope I've been using for a while now. Half of it is joking. I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. Half of it is trolling because some of you guys, the for lack of a better term, the Giddey's out there, the people who just die hard support Josh Giddey no matter what, who are convinced he's a future All-NBA player and the savior of the Bulls franchise, those type of people. You guys are sensitive. You guys get set off by so much stuff. So it's funny to me to say something as innocent as March Josh Giddey and to just see people freak out. So, as far as March basketball goes, it's a well-known thing. It's not just a Chicago Bulls thing. I think people think it's just a Chicago Bulls thing because last year the Bulls had their hot run during March and everybody was saying this is just March basketball. Do not take this serious. Do not drink the Kool-Aid. And Bulls fans took it a little personal because they were on a tear that year or that month. But then in the play-in, you saw why people told them not to take it that serious because they got their ass kicked in the play-in tournament. I mean, the Heat showed up, beat the hell out of them. It was embarrassing. I don't care what the final score was. I don't care what the box scores were. I know from watching that game that the Bulls were not in that game for a single second. I know they put up some garbage time stats and they made the game closer than it really was, but there was no point in that game where you thought the Chicago Bulls had a remote chance to win that game. Now, As far as March basketball goes, like I said, it's not just a Bulls thing. It's a league wide thing. And the first time I ever heard the term March basketball or ever got put onto it and started thinking about March basketball a little differently was actually when Devin Booker dropped 70 in 2017, because I saw him drop 70 against that Boston Celtics team. I didn't watch the game, saw it the next morning, and I was like, holy shit, that's crazy impressive. And it was impressive. But then I started listening to podcasts, and I believe it was the Bill Simmons podcast the next day where he outlined like, hey, it's impressive, but this is March. Like, these are the guys the Celtics were playing. These are the guys they weren't playing. The Suns had nothing to play for. They were clearly gunning for it. The Celtics were kind of taking their foot off the gas, trying to wind the season down. That was late March too. That was like March 28th or something. There was only like a week left of the NBA season. And he pointed out, all the other times in history too, especially in the recent years, where guys were putting up crazy numbers in March. So ever since then, I kind of kept my eye on it and took it with a grain of salt whenever guys put up crazy numbers in March. Now, obviously, what Devin Booker did that March, it was indicative of something bigger to come since then. He's been one of the best players in the NBA, one of the best shooting guards in the NBA for the last, damn near 10 years now. So that's an example of a guy putting up crazy March stats, but it actually meaning something and leading to something. Some of the other examples we've seen, I mean, just the other day, we had obviously the Giddey triple-double, 21, 13, 17. Buzelis scores 41 points in a single game. We had Cam Payne. He dropped 32 after not even being on an NBA roster most of the year, just came off the street, dropped 32 out of nowhere. Kyle Kuzma dropped 33 after not being in the Bucks rotation for like the last 2 weeks. So that's what I mean. And then you got Bam Adebayo that same night. He dropped 83 points. So when people say, March leads to crazy numbers being put up that we shouldn't really take seriously, that's what they're talking about. You see it league wide all over the place. Guys will put up crazy numbers. Cam Thomas had a hell of a March run. I think it was 2 seasons ago. He had a crazy March run to close the year out. People were telling you, don't take it serious, guys. This is just March basketball. We see it all the time. So when I say, March basketball, March Josh Giddey, that's what I'm referring to. It's not an attack on Chicago Bulls fans. It's just reminding people that every March we see this. Every single March in the NBA, we see this. Teams are tanking. Teams are resting their stars, getting ready for the playoffs. Guys, when they're playing against teams that aren't very good, they might be out there, but they're not giving 100%. They're on the brakes a little bit too. That's just a cold, hard reality of the NBA is, yeah, these guys are professional athletes. They're getting paid to play ball, but they don't play 100% night in and night out. The guys who play 100% night in and night out, the Russell Westbrooks of the world, those are few and far between. And that's what makes guys like that so special. So as far as March basketball and, the Josh Giddey thing, I did a deep dive on it. And the March Josh Giddey thing, it's not just a this year thing. I was saying it last year too. And if you look at his whole career, it is something that has been going on his whole career. For his whole career, he has played his best basketball in the month of March. So this season, he's averaging 18, 8, and 9. Now, people will say that those numbers are deflated because of the injury, because of the slow stretch he had when he came back from the injury. And you're right. There's no doubting that you're right. But his best numbers came at the start of the year. The start of the year, he was averaging 22, 9, and 9 for the first 5 games. Bulls were 5-0. And then every month after that, the stats went down. And like I said, you can blame injuries, you can blame whatever you want, but that's just the truth. They went down. So far in March, he's averaging 17, 12, and 11. So all around, that's a better stat line than the 22, 8, and 8 that he was averaging to start the year. 17, 12, and 11 right now in the month of March. And he just had a career game, 21, 13, 17 in the month of March. Last season, for the season, he was averaging 15, 8, and 7. Those numbers are bumped up by his March run, because if you look at his stats pre-deadline to post-deadline, pre-deadline, he was averaging like 12 points a game. And obviously, Zach LaVine got traded, and that opened up minutes for him. And there's a whole lot of reasons why his numbers were down at the start of the year. But you can't hide the fact that he played his best basketball in the month of March that year. The month of March that year, 20 points a game, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. So he averaged 15, 8, and 7 for the whole year. And a lot of that was propped up by a post-All-Star game run, including that hot month of March where he was 20, 10, and 9. Let's take it back to his last Thunder year. 23-24. For the season, 12 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Month of March, 16 points a game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Best basketball, once again, being played in March. Let's take it back to his second year in the NBA, 22-23 season. This is the season the Thunder were in the play-in tournament. One of the reasons they made the play-in tournament was Josh Giddey actually had a really good stretch in March that year. If I remember right, I believe SGA missed some time, and people were doubting if they were going to fall out of the play-in that year or not. Josh Giddey stepped up. They didn't fall out of the play-in. So that season, he averages 16 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Month of March, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Also shot his best percentage from the field and from three in that month, and had his lowest turnovers in that month. So another season where he played his best ball in March. Now, his rookie season. This season's the outlier because he didn't play in March that season. He only played 54 games. I believe he got hurt. He didn't play to close out the season. But for the season, he was averaging 12 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Didn't play in March, but in the month of February, the last month that he played, he averaged 18 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. So one of two things are happening here. Either Josh Giddey is a slow starter and does not start playing well until the month of March, or Josh Giddey, historically, every season of his career, plays his best basketball in March, which people, not just Bulls fans, but people league-wide will tell you should take those stats with a grain of salt, because in the month of March, a lot of teams are tanking. A lot of teams are resting for the playoffs. A lot of teams are not really playing serious basketball unless you're on a playoff team. If you're on a playoff team, your March stats mean a little bit more because teams are coming to play against you every night. If you're on a tanking team, your March stats don't mean that much because teams are taking the night off against you. That is one of the reasons the Bulls were able to run that record up post All-Star break last year, is teams looked at them and they said, this is an easy game. We don't need to play our starters. We don't need to play our stars. We saw Jokic sit out. We saw Donovan Mitchell sit out. I believe Jason Tatum sat games out. Halliburton sat a game out. The list of stars that did not play against the Chicago Bulls in that post-All-Star game run last year, it was long. It was vast. And there's a reason, because teams looked at them, said, this is free cheese. We don't need these guys. So if you are on a tanking team, your March stats don't mean that much to me. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Now, that being said, the Bulls are a tanking team. They're not a playoff team. Just because I'm saying your March stats don't mean that much to me as far as the bigger picture, like nothing that Josh Giddey does in this coming month, in March, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys, nothing he does is going to sway my opinion one way or the other. Like, he could play phenomenal basketball. He could average 21, 13, 17 the rest of the way. It's not going to change my opinion of him. And it could go the other way. He could average 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists a game, shooting 20% from the field. Wouldn't change my opinion of him that much, because I simply don't think that when you are a non-playoff team, when you are a tanking team, I don't think March games mean that much. So I'm not gleaming too much from him. Matas Buzelis is a totally different case. Matas Buzelis is a second-year player. He's a guy I've had doubts that he has, like I referenced earlier, I have doubts that he has the A1 alpha top scorer type mentality, that he's the type of guy who's going to force himself to take shots, to put up 15, 20 shots. I have doubts that he's just that archetype of player. I don't have doubts that he's a good player, just doubts that he's that archetype of player. So, but if Matas Buzelis continues, I believe his last 10 games, he's averaging 25 plus points. So he's starting to change my mind on exactly the archetype of player he might be. If he continues to keep this up, if he averages 25 plus for an entire month, even if it's in March, it's going to change the way I think about him. So just because I say March stats don't matter, that is not a blanket statement for everybody. People have used Paolo Banchero as an example. They've been like, well, you say Giddey's March stats don't matter, but you're propping up Paolo Banchero all the time. Isn't that hypocrisy? And maybe it is hypocrisy to some, but I would ask you to look at the context. Like I said, March stats don't matter if you're not playing for a playoff team. If you're playing for a playoff team, like the Magic are a playoff team. Every game that they play matters right now. They are in a dogfight every single game. They were playing last night. They were playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the best defensive teams on the planet, a team that is also trying to win. Both those teams are trying to win for playoff seeding right now. Paolo Banchero still had a hell of a game. So, yes, I look at a guy like Paolo and what he's doing lately, and he's been doing it since before March. He's been doing it since the All-Star break. His stats are going to mean more to me, and he has the pedigree to go on. I've seen Paolo show up in big moments. You guys forget those playoff series. I reference them all the time because his second year, he played against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs. I think they were the 2 seed and the Magic were the 7 seed that year, if I remember right. It was a game where it was a series where Paolo was overmatched. The Magic stood no chance. They forced it to 7 in part because Paolo Banchero, at the age of 20 years old at that time, he averaged like 28 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 50% from the field. He carried them in that series. Last year against the Celtics, it was him and it was Cole Anthony. Those were the only 2 players on that Magic roster who didn't look scared of the Boston Celtics. That meant something to me. He averaged like 30 points a game in that series. They obviously lost in 5, but they were overmatched. Nobody expected them to even win a game. They were expected to get swept. They didn't get swept in part because Paulo showed up. So I have the reference point of Paulo showing up in playoff games. So I can look at that. I can look at them fighting for playoff positioning, look at the teams that he's playing when he's putting these numbers up, teams that are also fighting for playoff positioning. And I can use that context to say, okay, his numbers matter. Now let's reference that with Josh Giddey. I just gave you all of the evidence on Josh Giddey that every single year of his career, his best stats have come in March. You take that into account with what we saw in the play-in tournament last year, where, yes, I know if you look at his box score looks okay in that game. But I watched that game, guys. He couldn't do anything against that Miami Heat defense. He was flustered the whole game. He wasn't into his rhythm. He wasn't into his groove. His stats look good because he put up some decent numbers in the fourth quarter when that game was out of reach. So you combine that where when the plays have really mattered, when the games have really mattered in that play-in tournament, he didn't show up. You combine that with the fact that the Bulls are playing for nothing right now. Teams that are playing the Bulls are playing for nothing right now. The Warriors had nobody out there. They're playing for nothing right now. That is going to lead me to take less from Josh Giddey's March stats than I do from Paulo Banchero's March stats. So you can say that's bias. You can say it's favoritism. That's just my logic. That's the way I think. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. That's just when people are asking for my explanations behind why I'm not that impressed by Josh Giddey's March run, why I continue to say March Josh Giddey. That's why when you reference it with Paulo Banchero, a guy I've seen show up before, a guy who the games he's playing right now, they matter. That's why you might think it's hypocrisy. I think I'm just taking these things in context. So I hope that that little deep dive on the March numbers and the background of it, I hope that that opens some people's eyes up and maybe makes them realize like I'm not being a hater on Josh Giddey just because I'm not buying the March Kool-Aid another year. Because if you guys were following me last year, I was buying it pretty heavy. If you guys have long enough memories to remember my takes from last year, I was all in on that Bulls team. I was one of the guys that was drinking the Kool-Aid and then watching them get spanked by the Heat in that play-in tournament. That was like my villain origin story. Ever since then, I've been like, this shit sucks. They need to blow it up. They need to tank. That's the only way they're going to be relevant again. So let's close out with the mailbag here. What do we got? What do we got? Got a couple good ones here. So first one we got comes from at Warriors and 4. Do you see Giddey or Modest being an all-star in 3 years? That is a loaded question because the thing is, it's different if you're asking me if they can be all-star level players versus can they be all-stars. So the caveat with the all-star game is if you're on a losing team, you're just not making an all-star game. Look at the all-star team this year. Was there a single person on a losing team on the All-Star teams this year? I don't think there was. And remember last year, a lot of people were mad that LaMelo Ball didn't make the All-Star team because he was averaging like 30 points a game. Stats were ridiculous, but the Hornets were terrible. So if you're on a bad team, traditionally, you don't make the All-Star game. In 3 years, do I think the Bulls can be a good team? I don't know. Depends how this draft plays out. If they get a top 4 pick, then I'm very confident they can be a good team. I'm pretty confident that Giddey and Buzelis can play at all-star level, have all-star level play in them 3 years from now. Like Giddey, he started out this year, what was it, 22, 8 and 8. I don't know if he could maintain that for a whole year, but if he was around that for a whole year and the Bulls were, 7 or an 8 seed, he could very easily earn like a Norm Powell all-star nod type of thing. And keep in mind with the way the rules are now where they're doing international players, that enhances both of these guys' ability to be an all-star because even though Buzelis was born in Chicago, raised in the United States, Norm Powell played for the international team just because they needed bodies. And they were like, hey, your dad was from Jamaica. And he was like, I was born and raised in America, but whatever. So, yeah, the new format of the All-Star game definitely it gives a little more favoritism to the idea that those guys can be all-stars for sure. I'm not going to say they can't be. Do I see it? Not necessarily. I see it more for Buzelis than for Giddey, to be honest with you. Like, people will get mad at me for saying Buzelis can't be all NBA. Just because I don't think he can be all NBA doesn't mean I don't think he can be an all-star. Those are two vastly different things. There are 24 all-stars in the league every year. There's only 15 all NBA guys in the league. And as I pointed out the other day, Buzelis's position is loaded, especially at his age range. Modest Buzelis, 21 years old right now. I think I did a list the other day that was like wings that are 25 and under, and you got Scotty Barnes, you got Paulo Banchero, Cooper Flagg, Jalen Williams, both of the Thompson twins. Who else was in there? I know Jalen Johnson was in there. I know I'm missing one. It's like on the tip of my tongue, and I'm just missing it right now. But the point is that it's easy to say, oh, he can be an all-star, he can be an all NBA. Like that's very easy to say. When you look around the whole league and you look at guys who play his position and are right around his age range, within 3 years of his age range, then it becomes a little harder to map that out. But can he be an all-star in 3 years? Absolutely. Him or Josh Giddey could be all-stars in 3 years. Do I see it happening? Not necessarily. I'm not super optimistic about it. Next question we got from my boy Samity, who's been in the chat. Appreciate you, Samity. Who are some players who have played for the Lakers and Bulls? You referenced Zoe and AC. I mean, obviously the great Ron Harper. Ron Harper won titles with both of them. Trying to think. Luol Deng, he had a very short Laker career. They had that infamous offseason where they had all the cap space and they used it to sign Timothy Mozgov and Luol Deng. So he played for both of them. Carlos Boozer, after the Bulls amnestied him, played for both of them. Pau Gasol played for both of them. Let's see. Lakers and Bulls. Lakers and Bulls. Trying to think of any recent guys. I can't think of anybody too recently. Anthony Davis might play for the Bulls someday. Zach LaVine might play for the Lakers someday. You never know. Those guys could be future names for sure. Orlando Woolridge, if you want to go super old school, he was like a lob threat on the Bulls, and then he went and played with the late stages of Showtime with Magic Johnson. I think that might be all the guys. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman had what, like a little 8-game stretch with the Lakers there that was terrible for all parties involved. Shaq has some good stories on that one for sure. But yeah, I think that might be all the ones I can name, at least off the top of my head, without doing any research. I think so. Oh, you're right in the chat. Horace Grant. Always forget that he played for the Lakers. He won, I think, 2 titles with the Lakers there. So that's a good call. That's a good one. But yeah, there's a history of Lakers Bulls. I'm like a semi-Laker fan to an extent. I don't think AC Green ever played for the Chicago Bulls. But growing up was a gigantic Kobe Bryant fan, my favorite athlete of all time. Ride or die for Kobe. It's been really hard in light of the Bam Adebayo thing to not be a hater, because everything in me wanted to be a hater and wanted to shit on it. But I was like, I don't want to be that old dude who shits on the new generation whenever they do something cool. So haven't hated on it. Shout out to Bam, 83 points in a game. Fucking ridiculous. If you're hating on it, you're insane. But diehard Kobe fan growing up. So as long as he wasn't playing the Bulls, I was rooting for the Lakers. So the Lakers forever were like my second favorite team. Once LeBron joined, that kind of went down the wayside. I actually liked the team they had before LeBron, when it was like Lonzo, Ingram, Josh Hart, Alex Caruso. I didn't like Kyle Kuzma, but he was on that team. Julius Randle. Like, I thought it was a young upstart team, and I was excited to see how they would grow. And then LeBron came in, and it hasn't felt like the Lakers since. Like, even the look of the Lakers hasn't felt right since then. You guys saw, what was it, like a month ago, where they asked somebody from Nike, like, how come your jerseys are yellow now when before they were gold? And they were like, we don't know how to make that gold, like that specific shade of gold that Magic had, that Kobe had, that Shaq had. We don't know how to make that anymore. So it's like this ugly, bright yellow. And I hate the Lakers now. And Luca, I'm sorry, local Bulls fan, AD. I'm sorry if you're watching, man. I hate Luca. I know you said on our pod that he's one of your favorite players to watch. I can't stand the guy. He's one of the roughest watches in the NBA, between the constant foul baiting, the spamming of the step back three, and just the nonstop bitching to the refs. He's just not my cup of tea. Very talented player, not my cup of tea. But we got Lakers Bulls tonight, and it's just one of those games where it's going to be an interesting one, but I'm still rooting for the Bulls to lose. I just want to see good Giddey games, good modest games, but still a Bulls loss. The other part of Samity's question here ties into the current Lakers. What are your thoughts of the relationship between JJ Redick, Luka Doncic? It's super interesting, man, because these two guys, they don't look like they get along at all. You saw that clip, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where they were on the bench, and JJ was trying to talk to Luka. Luka wasn't having it, so JJ walked away, and then Luka like yelled after him, and Jared Vanderbilt like kind of stepped in, was like, "Hey man, just chill, just take a beat, chill." So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. We all know JJ Redick's a psychopath. He's not quite at that Joe Mazzulla level of psychopath, but he's still a psychopath out there. Luka doesn't seem like the easiest guy to coach. Doesn't seem like the easiest guy to get along with. The interesting thing is, people forget they were teammates. It lasted like 2 months. The Mavericks, I think the year before they went to the finals, I believe they traded for JJ Redick. He had been injured with the Pelicans all year, but they figured we could take a flyer. We can try to bring him in. And that was the end of JJ Redick. JJ said he did a couple practices. I think he played like 2 games, and he realized he wasn't going to recover from this injury. And he retired relatively early for being the type of guy whose game should have predicated itself to lasting a little longer in the NBA. So they've been teammates. He's seen Luka in so many different situations. I don't think their relationship is great. Does that mean it can't get better? No, it could get better. Like JJ is a young coach. Luka's still a relatively young player. I'm interested to see what they do this offseason, because this offseason is really their first chance to build around Luka. This team right now is still a team that was built for LeBron, but is trying to put Luka in LeBron's place. And while they're kind of similar players with the ball dominance and the all-around game and the passing vision and the ability to get 30, they are drastically different players when you watch how they go about getting their points or how they go about getting their assists. So this offseason, it's a real chance for them to reset and try to actually build a Luka team. And they're not that far away from building it, if we're being honest. I mean, you look at that Mavs team that went to the finals. You need 2 lob threats. You need a Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively type guys who are lob threats, guys who can protect the paint, because Luka is going to give up drives to guards play after play after play. So you need paint protectors. You need lob threats. Then you need athleticism on the wings. You need a PJ Washington. I'm blanking. I think, Derek Jones was on the wing. I'm blanking on who their other one was, but they had 3 really good athletic wing threats on that team who could all shoot the 3 ball too. And then you need a secondary ball handler, secondary creator, which is the hardest thing to get in the NBA when you have that superstar already. I mean, the Pistons haven't really been able to get one for Cade Cunningham. The Timberwolves haven't really been able to get one for Anthony Edwards. The Hawks were never able to get one next to Trae Young. James Harden I don't know if James Harden's ever had one next to him in his career. Donovan Mitchell right now this year might be the first time he's ever had that. It's a hard thing to get. And the Lakers, they already have that with Austin Reeves. So you have that building block. You have Luka, and then you have the secondary ball handler, secondary creator, that Kyrie kind of role. Obviously, Reeves nowhere near Kyrie as a player, but he's still a damn good player, can still get you 25. Now you just got to go get some athletic wings. You got to get some lob threats, some paint protectors. It's relatively easy to rebuild this Lakers roster. It's an easier task to rebuild this Lakers roster than it is the Bulls roster. So as far as my thoughts on the relationship between JJ and Luka, it doesn't look great right now, but it could look good in a couple of years. Sam, you only been to one Laker game your entire life? Dude, I've never been to LA. I've never been to a Laker game in LA, but every time the Lakers came to Minnesota, I was at those games. I was watching those games. So I've been to a million Laker games. Never seen LeBron in the Laker jersey, though. Don't want to, have no interest in it. Never seen LeBron. I've never seen Luka in person either. Like, if you made a list of guys I've never seen in person, the only guys I think I've missed that are like elite are Luka and Giannis. I haven't seen Giannis in person yet. I've wanted to. It's just schedule-wise has never worked out. I saw Jokic the first year he was starting in Denver. Nobody knew who he was. That was a fun game because my buddy worked for 3M and he got their courtside seats. So I was like courtside and I was like, I don't know who this fat European kid is, but he's going to be something in the NBA. Like, you could just tell watching him there. But all the other greats, I've seen in person, just not Luka, and I don't really have interest in Luka. Not Giannis, but I do want to see Giannis. So good question, Samity. Lots of Laker talk there. If you get me talking about Luka, man, I could rant forever. And then let me see, where'd that question go? The last one we got here, it's a Timberwolves question, which is kind of funny. So if you guys don't know, I'm a personal trainer. I was training one of my clients today, and he's a Timberwolves fan. Shout out Aaron. And he was like, hey, I was listening to 93X this morning, which is a local radio station here. I guess they got some sports show, and they were floating Anthony Edwards trades. And that's like when you know that it's just a slow news day. You don't have anything to talk about because you float Anthony Edwards trades, which is ridiculous. And he was like, what do you think? They offered Anthony Edwards to the Hawks for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson, and the Pelicans unprotected first for Anthony Edwards. And their rationale was that unprotected first is going to be a top 3 pick, which everybody is saying this draft top 3 going to be a superstar. And I laughed. I was like, that is a terrible, terrible trade. I would hang, if I was the Timberwolves, I would hang up the phone and tell you to never call me again, because that is a horrible trade. And value-wise, it's better than what the Mavericks got for Luka Doncic, obviously. But I would argue that the Mavericks, they can get another Luka Doncic. They can get another superstar. They already got Cooper Flag. They had precedence of having Dirk Nowitzki for all those years. They've had Steve Nash. Like, they've had stars before. They got Kyrie Irving. They got, I mean, when they traded for Rajon Rondo at the time, he was a star. Like they have precedents for getting stars. The Minnesota Timberwolves don't have that precedent, man. Kevin Garnett left in 2007, and they didn't get Anthony Edwards until 2013, and that's a long time in between. So when you compare the two, like Minnesota losing Anthony Edwards would be far more disastrous for Minnesota than losing Luka Doncic was for the Dallas Mavericks. And losing Luka Doncic was disastrous for the Mavericks. Their fans were picketing, their fans were bringing caskets to the games. I guarantee you, if the Timberwolves traded Anthony Edwards, you would have the same kind of response. So it's funny, local, how local radio stations are. They need something to talk about. Timberwolves have lost a couple. They got flat out embarrassed by the Clippers last night. Kawhi Leonard looked like maybe the best player on the planet in that game. They lost to the Lakers the night before that. Like, it's a rough stretch for Minnesota right now. Julius Randle's playing like dog shit. The rest of the team isn't really stepping up, but Ant is still playing well. So of course the talk is going to come. Like, this is what we do for some reason. We like players, we fall in love with players, and then as soon as they don't win, we start tearing them down. Like, it's what the media does over and over. You see it every time. Like, when a player's young, when they're like 22, 23, and they're putting up 30 a game, they're like, oh, this is awesome. This guy's so cool. 2 years later, he's averaging the same numbers, but he hasn't won yet. They're like, what's wrong with this guy? Can you win with this guy? Should you think about trading this guy? And it's insane. I don't know why we got to attack players like that, but that's a larger conversation with how players are covered. So yeah, if I was the Timberwolves, I would never trade Anthony Edwards. Like, I'm talking truly untouchable. Unless you are calling and offering me Victor Wembanyama, I'm not trading you Anthony Edwards, just because of how much he means to the franchise. And you're Minnesota. You're not getting another star player in there. And even if you get a player who's comparable talent-wise, like Anthony Edwards, he's not the second best player in the NBA, but he's in that 5 range. He's somewhere between like 4 and 8, depending on how your list goes, right? The charisma that he brings, the gravity that he brings, the attention he brings to your franchise makes him a little more valuable for you than anybody else you bring in. You're not going to bring in another guy who's going to bring that same kind of gravitas to your franchise that Anthony Edwards does. So shout out to Aaron for the question, but yeah, I'm not trading Anthony Edwards for anything. And he even asked, he was like, well, what if it was hypothetically Jalen Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the first overall pick in last year's draft, because he knows I'm a huge Cooper Flag guy. And I said, no, dude, I'm still hanging the phone up. Like, I'm not trading Anthony Edwards for anything. So that does it. I don't have any other questions here. Shout out to everybody who showed up in the live. I appreciate it, guys. As you guys know, I'm a gym rat. So my thing is, like, if I want to get better, I got to do reps. And this podcasting thing, I've gotten some really cool compliments from it, but I also know there's a lot of room for me to grow. Me and Sal are having a lot of fun on the Bulls on Tap podcast. We're just going to keep growing. We're going to keep getting better. I honestly think every episode we get a little bit better. So I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the support. Keep rocking with me, guys. If you guys ever want to talk ball, man, just hit my DMs. You guys know where to find me at JTalksHoops. It's the same handle on everything, whether we're talking TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Same handle on everything. Appreciate it. If you follow me, I'm probably going to follow back. Let's hope Josh Giddey and Modest Buzelis have great games tonight, guys.